potential buyer doesn't fund this.
Well, suppose they could propose to fund it.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be able to do anything without this study. So they're going to buy the property, then they're going to have to get the study done.
Well, we're not going to recommend transfer of the property without a plan, I don't believe.
It's the Airport Land Use Commission's plan. It's not.
So the airport. Okay, so it's what, the FFA or FAA?
It's not the FAA.
It's
the
it's Caltrain.
No, it's the local land use commission, the airport land use commission.
Right.
That you and Bob sit on with,
Right.
with 2 city council members.
Right.
So anyway, I'm in agreement with Richard. I think it makes the most sense to see what the RFP brings.
You know, I agree to your point. What I don't like about it, if we do get a legitimate bid, this guy's got to sit there and wait for 6 months to do this.
Yeah.
To me, that's not fair to the bid.
Yeah.
Well, I think we are remiss in not having a plan. I will agree with you there, but the facts are what they are. There's a lot of things around the Hurlong situation that aren't exactly perfect.
I had a question. You know, on the first page it says the commission is making substantial progress toward the completion of the airport land use compatibility plan, but I wasn't even aware that anything. Have you guys even mad about this?
No.
No, that's why I'm not recommending that.
No, but how come that sentence is in there?
Well, I mean, we could start doing things. You mean that?
Well, when I read this, I thought, geez, I didn't realize. I mean, I thought, you know, you were saying that they've been, like it says, they're making substantial progress.
That's a finding that could be made by the airport.
Okay, very good. It's a finding. Okay.
And you see the second paragraph under there, we don't recommend that.
Okay. Sorry.
So to answer,
context.
hold on for just a minute, I think, and Maury checked me on this, but I believe that if we get bids that we like and we want to transfer it, the commission could invoke that finding and say we are working on a plan.
Yes, right. If we did start to pay for a plan, we could make these findings.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would then allow the transfer of the property. Now, the downside of that is the landowner doesn't necessarily know what that plan's going to look like.
Right. Right.
Why do we need to bid on it if we don't know anything?
Yeah. I'm in favor of
I have an issue with it, you know, not going the cheapest route, but that could be a couple of years off. I do have an issue with somebody that's legitimately putting a bid in. I mean, a business man, and he finds out there's no plan, and now you've got to wait 6 months or so, 4 months, a year, whatever it takes, to get approval from the Airport Land Use Commission.
That's why Richard and I wanted to be in here having this discussion. These are pertinent facts that.
If I could just interject here a little bit. This airport land use plan, when it's adopted, is going to apply to every landowner in that area, not just these guys.
I understand.
So,
Within 2 miles.
I'm sorry.
It says within 2 miles.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of landowners that are going to be affected by this plan. You know, once it's adopted by
But
the.
how can you put out a bid asking for someone to bid a piece of property when you don't have a plan that, well, he gives a bid and we can't say, okay, we're going to take the bid because we don't have a plan.
No, and that's what the point that I just made. It's a subtle point. We can transfer the property as long as we're making substantial progress towards adoption of a plan.
This is going to be property.
He's not going to know what he's going to be able to do.
Was
Yeah,
this
I mean,
disclosed in the RFP?
To a public.
What issue?
This issue, was it disclosed in the RFP?
This specific issue about the
Yeah,
airport
that
land use plan?
you need a land use plan, was that disclosed?
There's no requirement that the landowner or purchaser of the property have an airport land use plan. It's a requirement of the Airport Land Use Commission that they have a plan.
But
And it
my
will apply
question
to
is,
all property.
Did you put that
This-
little fact in
It
the
was not included
RFP?
in the RFP.
Okay. Any questions or more? Any, okay, let's take a public comment. It might have some questions. Eileen,
I hate to throw a what is that? Chink in the armor.
No, you don't.
I don't want one.
You don't hate to throw a chicken on, but
Well, excuse me.
throw away.
Excuse me. Several months ago, Can We Help, and I think I mentioned this at one of your meetings, we submitted a FOIA request to the Army in regards to the sale of what you're doing with the airfield property. Friday we got a large packet of documents that you do not have, because I have seen all the documents on that disk. I've read all of them. And one interesting thing, there are others, but one interesting thing is that they, in September of 2004, the Army states very clearly, actually on the first page of one of the reports, if I could, this is my only copy, if you could give it back. It's going to be on the website. That Elma owns the 1 acre electrical substation. I know it came up and Mr. Hammond was asked if he knew anything who owned well, you don't own it. It's clear that you don't own it.
I believe it's REA.
I'm sorry?
I believe it's REA. Plymouth Rural Association, Electric Association.
Well, it isn't. In 2000, and I can provide you with the documents, but it will be up on our website. In 2003, Eldman completed a sale of Hurlong customers, which partially included the electrical service to the Sierra Army Depot. However, it did exclude the electrical substation, that little 1 acre parcel. And there's a little picture of it. Again, if you don't want to see it, you're not interested, and you think it's a lie, it's there. And you said it was hot, which it is. And the Army said after the Plymouth Sierra got everything except that electrical station. And you can confirm this with, we have documents that show that it wasn't included. Elma still owns it. And that you're selling something you don't own. And, I've done all of the legwork for you. But if you want to start over and do it, fine. But you're going to have a problem with including that 1 acre up in the corner with that little electrical substation that's owned by Elma. Again, there was a controversy over PSREC, the transfer of ownership of customers. And in 2003, they issued a electronic transfer, and I have a copy of that for $1.25 million for those customers. It excluded some areas. And one of the areas was that little electrical station up there. So I didn't make this up. I can back it up with documents, and it's up to you if you want to sell something, continue to sell something you don't own.
Lori Anderson, Planning Building Services. Ms. Spencer may be absolutely correct. We maybe don't have our facts straight. We relied upon a title report that says we own the property and Elma has certain interests, which would presumably be the equipment.
That's what the title report says?
Any other public comment?
I can make those documents I got Friday to anyone that wants it at no cost.
Actually, I don't think that's part of the agenda item. The agenda item is the airport and use plan, not what it is, property. I would, I'll let it go where it goes, but I'd make a motion we can limit you and move ahead with it, because I still think it's, I would not want to bid on a piece of property knowing that later on there's going to be a plan developed that I've never seen and I don't know what's in the plan. I can make a big determination on whether you want to even bid on the property. It seems a little bit confusing to me, so I would make a motion we go ahead and come up to 18,000, and that could be the next agenda. Number 2, but I direct staff to return to the board. Allow consideration of budgetary action to provide funding to allow the preparation of an ALUCP, Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. Motion to advertise. But I mean, sitting on the commission, I have a hard time thinking I'm doing the right job on any issue that comes in. I mean, it should have been done years ago.
Yes, it should.
I mean, it's not something we need to do today for this, it's something that needs to be done for a lot, and the commission can't do it, the board of supervisors has to do it, the commission's got no money. Anyhow, the rest of it's up to you guys.
I mean,
I'll satisfy my Joe feelings.
Yeah, no, you make a good point, and whether we do this now or wait until after the RFP, no matter what we do, the potential bidders are still gonna have a big question mark over their head, no matter what. No matter if we do nothing, do what Bob's suggesting.
We should probably second the motion to not discuss.
For the
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
yeah, thanks. I'm almost done, and I still haven't learned all this. Still got this guy correcting me. Okay, do we want to have a second to further discussion? Not even for discussion?
Must be a really, there must be a really bad
You guys
motion.
don't even want to talk about it. They don't even want to talk about it.
Must be a really, really bad motion.
Mr. Chairman, I have a compromise suggestion, which would be to authorize us to move forward with the plan with the understanding that we'll use our discretion after receiving the proposals and reviewing them. Because we're only talking about 2 weeks, but that would allow us to move swiftly right after the 11th.
Well, just put this back on the agenda after the deadline to receive the bid.
If we
It's only going to be 2 weeks anyhow.
But here's the dilemma. So we received the proposals on the 11th. So in order to get something on the agenda for the 16th, we'd have to have it to the clerk by the 12th in order to get it on the agenda for the 16th, which is going to be kind of difficult for us to review those proposals by then, I think, Susan.
Well, to get it on for the 16th, we would have to before that, this is getting it on for the...
So, which means it doesn't get on, my point is if it doesn't get on the agenda for the 16th, it goes all the way until January.
Sorry, it's country anyhow. Probably this is.
But if we get those proposals and staff reviews them and says, okay, we've got enough proposals here that we think something's going to happen, we could move forward with the plan and just getting started in December, potentially almost a month early.
What's the time frame on this study?
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
What do we expect the time frame to
4 to
complete?
6 months. Maybe shorter, but I'm not going to. We have to see what
Why would it take so long?
well, there are statutory things. There's going to be an initial study. There's going to be some hearings. There's going to be meetings, public meetings.
That answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
My standard response. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I guess it's up to you, Mr.
Well, if the board wants to move,
Obviously, they helped, and
you got
a second.
You got a second.
Oh, yeah, you got
That's right.
Twisted arm.
I had to twist it on.
Yeah, you did.
He's got a second, doesn't necessarily mean he's voting for it.
Oh, exactly.
That's right.
Okay, well, I call this question.
All right, so can we just have Richard just
Sure we can.
quickly explain again, and then we'll vote?
What the motion is?
No, I mean, what your plan is.
My idea would be
You
The board-
outlined the benefit to doing.
yes, so if the board authorizes me to enter into an agreement with these consultants to do the airport land use plan, I will delay exercising that authority until the 11th or 12th when I have a chance to review the proposals. If it looks like we have some solid proposals, then we'll move forward right away with contracting to have the plan done.
That's okay, but it's gonna work like that anyhow.
Well, but if you don't grant me that authority, then I have to bring it back in January
Meeting, yes.
Correct.
before, so
I would add that to motion,
it would give us another 20 or 30 days head start.
even if they were 30 days. I don't like putting people off. I mean, it's like an appeal, 2 years, if I want to appeal my taxes, well, of course, I could probably never appeal mine, being a conflict of interest.
Oh, no, you can't.
Did you agree on that as a second? Richard, what time are the bids open?
Just say yes.
It's on the, I believe it's
It's
4
like
o'clock.
there's no.
Yeah, I don't want to delay any.
It's on the website.
Sure, you go, you're a bureaucrat.
It's gonna get delayed.
I don't want to get there at 4 and say it's already done.
Yeah, there's a time.
It has to be done.
Oh, I second.
You agree?
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
locked in.
You're paid in the butt.
All right, well,
Before we have the full vote, request a full vote, Mr. Chairman, I just find it interesting that the board created this Airport Land Use Commission in 1986, April 8th to be exact. And here it is, 28 years later, we're now all of a sudden realizing that we need a plan in order to be able to deal with this piece of property. I mean, I think this whole thing is just back-assward, someone to rush something through. I mean, I think that it just shows contempt for what the process is supposed to be about, and I think that this is the way we're conducting business, we're doing it wrong. So, my attitude is if you guys are looking at wanting to get rid of the property, that's fine, that's separate from whether this plan is, it obviously hasn't been an important document for 28 years, so now all of a sudden it's rising to the point where it has this, I just, to be honest with you, I'm just sitting here listening to you guys chatter, just shaking
Well,
my head.
Jim, just because we've been wrong for 20 years, don't mean we have to continue. I mean,
No, I'm just saying, but I'm saying though.
Now we're aware of it, let's fix it.
Well, and that's true, but the only reason why you're aware and anxious to fix it is because of this transaction. I'm saying, to hell with the transaction, if it's something that's important to be done, then let's just take the normal, timely fashion to get it done and done right the first time since we've waited 28 years for it.
Excuse me.
We've been wrong for 20
If
years.
you're not aware of something, you can't fix it. I was not aware of this until this particular issue came up.
I wasn't on the board in 1986 when they
Being
created
that I
this
was
body.
appointed to the commission, that again made me aware of. And I think it's my duty as sitting on that commission to fix something that I found out is not correct.
Well, now we're in a haste and rush to get it fixed. So
No
we can
haste and
deal
rush.
with-
The amendment to the motion will take that haste and rush out of it.
Well, if it wasn't for this other issue dealing with the disposal of that property, this issue wouldn't even be given a
Whatever,
priority.
whatever.
We'd probably wait another
That's
20
all for the
years.
question. Sorry, blah, 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 blah.
Can I quote you?
okay, Madam,
Nobody can quote me, but my wife.
and if this fails, we'll address it again in January. Madam Clerk.
Supervisor Chapman?
No,
Supervisor Pyle?
Right.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
Supervisor Wassett?
I'm going to say no, because before I leave the board, I need to vote with Jim on something.
You already voted, huh? Payback.
So,
Put that on the record.
it's time to go to lunch with
Yeah.
we can go either way. I mean, we're going to basically delay it for a few weeks. And Jim makes a valid point. If it wasn't for this, we wouldn't be. Well, there's valid points on both sides.
On December 11th, do what you have to do, and if it comes back in order to do whatever, the person that comes in and bids for the property is going to probably give you $32,500, and it wouldn't be enough to pay for the
It might even be the same people.
It might be the same people.
Yeah. Okay. That was okay. Let's. Can you Jesse, you mind giving John a shot? We're going to take up his own. Thanks.
You wonder why they criticize.
I don't think anybody wants to have. Really? We want all that.
It's not a big
The way this whole thing.
Hi, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Mino, Undersheriff. We're here today asking for the board to ratify an emergency purchase. The sewage grinding pump that services the county jail suffered an ugly failure back in October. This is critical infrastructure. It has to be online. We don't have any option but to pre-treat before we hit the Susanville Sanitary District system. because the risk of blockages and overflows, and no good comes from us not taking care of this. So it went offline. This is not the kind of thing where we can wait, where we can get bids and contracts and slow the process down in any way, shape, or form. So the Public Contracts Code allows for us to go outside of the normal procurement, get quotes, get the work done, as long as we come back on the backside, get in front of the board, and ask you to find that there was an emergency situation and ratify the purchase by a 4/5 vote. So with that, I'm happy to take it.
Richard just got a 2-2 vote, so you're optimistic.
Well, don't we got, do that when they approve the agenda?
No.
I just put it out of my,
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
This is a purchase that I authorized
You gotta
that requires ratification. It was a real stinky.
Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, for support of it, it's the pump failed.
get- Yeah, bring it.
I'll call you next time.
Well, you can take that one off.
Can I ask a favor? This is probably about the third or fourth time I bought one of these here. Can this one last for like 2 more years so I don't have to deal with it?
So the good news is we had the one. This is the same one that we bought about 7 years ago, and there was a mechanical issue with it at one point, and this was the same thing. It just, unfortunately,
That happens.
it
Is this
just
a rotovator?
It's a surge run.
it's a sewage grinder. Everything has to be treated, and the sad thing is, inmates in the jail, put everything from clothing to you name it down there. So it's.
It cranks up through.
But it is the same one, Jim. It just the bearing seized and the motor shut down, so we had to get it fixed.
I make a motion to do it.
Second.
Any public comment? All right, so, Madam Clerk, would you call the vote?
Supervisor Chapman.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyle.
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond.
Aye.
Supervisor Wassett.
I just had to vote in a very least
Thank you, John. Thank you.
All righty. Okay, Richard, these are
Down to me. Couple of items. So as Supervisor Chapman indicated, I attended the CSAC annual conference. I too thought it was a good conference. It had a couple of keynote speakers that weren't directly pertinent to county issues, but were really nice, big picture talks about issues that we don't necessarily have in our forefront all the time. But in Los Angeles, for example, they have, of course, a big gang problem.
That guy, that father,
Yeah, they have Father
Greg Boyle.
Yes, has started a homeboy industries down there, where he takes people freshly out of prison or what have you that are involved in gangs, and takes them and puts them to work in his homeboy industries, and they have a bakery and all sorts of different industries that they do, and very interesting the success that they've had in getting rival gangs to work together and so on. Not an issue that we deal with that much up here, but it was pretty interesting. Another one that
It makes you appreciate living here and down there.
it really does. Another one that I thought was really interesting was this concept of blue zones, and this group did a study of areas all over the world that have life expectancies that exceed the norm, and tried to compare and contrast and figure out what the commonalities were with those. And some of those commonalities were things like communities where you walk or bike, garden, instead of getting in your car and going everywhere. One of the ones that I thought was really interesting was the whole theme of retirement is kind of absent in these communities where people live longer, and rather than having a work life and then a retired life, there's kind of a seamless transition to different components of your life, and being connected to your community is one of the most significant.
Sense of purpose.
Diet and smoking and all that impacts, but these are equally or more as important to longevity. I thought that was really interesting, and maybe overriding conceptual things that we can think about when we're talking about our community, what we can do to make it a place place for people to go. Oh, those were the two things I enjoyed there. I think we missed something on here.
Yeah, meeting dates?
Yes.
Going back to H5.
Oh, I just totally went off the
You did?
You did have
track there.
It was lovely.
Sorry about
You're
that.
on a roll.
Yeah.
At least you didn't get a gavel. You didn't get a gavel.
I didn't get you on that. Sorry about that. So H5, meeting dates, I want to bring to the board's attention that we have a meeting scheduled on the 23rd of December, 24th and 25th are holidays. That's one of the week when we often take it off if we don't have a need for a meeting. I wanted to bring that up, see what the board's appetite on that issue was. Happy either way.
Maybe we have two needs before then.
We have 9th and 16th.
We ought to be able to get it.
Um,
If there's something important come up, I guess we could do it.
Okay. If you want, maybe we could cancel it, the board could cancel it, and then we always have the ability to schedule a special meeting if we need to.
I would say cancel it if we need to, if the special comes, if I can't wait, some special meeting.
We always have an option if you had to have a special meeting even on the 30th the following week.
Are you canceling the 23rd or the 16th?
23rd.
Yeah, it's a tough time for staff too, a lot of people take time off during holidays.
Usually from about the 15th of the month until New Year's, the last 2 weeks is skeletal operations.
Basically from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Tough time.
You have the H6.
Okay, as the board's aware, I have had some preliminary discussions with the owners and the representatives of the owners of the building on Riverside that's currently occupied by the Bureau of Land Management. And what I'm asking the board to do is to appoint me as a real property negotiator to enter into formal negotiations with those folks to try to work out a lease or lease purchase combination for that facility.
Do you need a motion?
A second.
Any public comment? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do you need action on that item 5, H5?
We do. We do need to cancel
There was
it.
no motion.
So let's go back to 5.
There was no motion on 5.
Cancel it on third. I'm going to cancel it to December 23rd.
I'll second.
Any public comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye. So H5, chair votes aye. Okay. All right, H7.
H7, okay, Mr. Chairman, we received a request from the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority to alter the agreement that we've entered into based on the option that I'm displaying up here. The board entered into a contract to transfer a portion of the Roosevelt property to the Honey Lake Valley Recreational Authority. We cut out, if I can get this section here to allow access to the sheriff's building on this parcel, if the board remembers that. So the sheriff and Melody both went out there with city staff and surveyor to review that and try to come up with some points on the ground where we could make that work. They concluded, I'm not in entire agreement with them, but the best way to access that would be through an easement through the parcel rather than cutting out this section here.
So the sheriffs can get to that building?
Right, exactly. And so that is the request that we have from the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority, is that we just make the line go along, straight along here. Maybe I'll walk over.
I think so. You just should need.
This, yeah, well, this doesn't seem to be working well.
It doesn't work well.
But basically, we would go straight down here, deed this and this to the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority, and we would access it through a deeded easement to the building.
Where's the building, Richard?
The
Where's the building?
right here. It's actually on a separate parcel
What it
that's
looks like.
south of the Roosevelt parcel. Even though the sheriff and Health and Social Services don't see the need for that building in their operations in the future, I don't know that it's wise to just to make it a parcel that only has access through that parking lot, which I think is what that's going to be in terms of marketability of that site. If you remember, I recommended that we move the line on this side of the building, and the board chose to give them more. So that is the request from Jerry.
Long term, the pool authority is going to need all the property that they requested there, and having that notch there kind of makes it's kind of awkward in terms of being able to bring the sheriff's boat in for the boat patrol that's stored there in the off season. You know, trying to make it negotiate around that tight squeeze. The authority's attitude is as we develop and use the site, it's going to be a long period of time before that part of it will probably be encumbered by some part of the facility. And the sheriff's indicated his desire, apparently, this is what was reported to the authority, that he's planning on relocating the storage for his boat patrol to something that's more convenient to him over at, this is kind of an isolated out-of-the-way spot for him. And, you know, at one time it was used for, you know, and they had other activities going on around there. And it was a relatively unused piece of county property that was being used for vehicle storage and otherwise, which is no longer going to be the case. So, but the idea being is however they use to get in and access it, you know, whatever they need to maneuver to do that, it makes no sense trying to confine them to this. Why not let them just come in across and that's something that the authority had no problem agreeing to. And if it's something that the county wants to use the building for something post-sheriff, that's another question. Maybe the request to the authority is that they not preclude the ability for access to that building by granting an easement or granting ability to come across that portion of the property that would be under the control of the authority itself.
What I would suggest is, if the board's inclined to grant the request, is that we retain a deeded easement to that property. I'm not sure exactly what the discussions were at the Recreation Authority, but it may be that they're assuming that when the sheriff moves out, nobody's ever going to use that building anymore. I don't think that's a fair assumption.
No, I don't think that's been their assumption, but right now the only one who has an interest in it is the sheriff. And what I just said is, there's potential other use by other county entities. And I think as far as the authority is concerned, is that they're not interested in precluding the county from having access to that particular building, but just to confine it to a narrow space and create this odd-shaped parcel is what they're saying that doesn't make sense. So they haven't decided on finalize the plan for how the pool. The proposal that was submitted by the consultant didn't sit well with me, and he had the pool he had parking on this side and pool on the other side and whatever. So we're still sorting out how that's going to shape up, and probably the next meeting will be telling us a lot.
So where that deeded easement would be, that's just designated for parking.
Right.
It's not going to have a negative effect.
Well, to the extent that there's a plan, yeah, I think that's still in flux right now, what the actual design of the site.
What was shared with me was the sheriff was more interested in having ability to have a direct shot coming from the street through the gate and just go head south and be able to maneuver his building, and rather than try to do this, come around and come through this piece that was being bootlegged off to the school site.
So what I would suggest is that we retain it could be a non-exclusive easement. It doesn't necessarily have to be an exclusive easement, coming from South Street straight down to the building.
Well, if it was exclusive, that would satisfy. We don't really want other people using it, like the county.
Well, if we retained an exclusive easement, it would mean that nobody else could use it, including the Recreation Authority.
Yeah, and the pool authority, I don't think would be in favor of that. I think what the pool authority is willing to do is to work with the county to provide adequate access to the building, not preclude or landlock the building so it couldn't be done. Rather than being confined to this is how you have to do it in this little space, give them the flexibility to figure out how to use the property to maximize what they want to use the property for. But at the same time, when they do, you know, make sure that there's the ability to get to that building in and out, and that's what they're asking for.
That'll be a motion.
Well, if that's what it takes to get a motion, I'd make that motion. And I would say not just be exclusive to just the sheriff's use, but any future potential county use of that building would be satisfactory.
Well, I would think that the easement would be tied to parcel B.
Yeah, which is the part we're annexing to them. But it's all.
No, the part that we're retaining.
B is blue.
I can't see the colors in here.
Either B or the parcel that the building actually sits on.
Yeah,
So that if we say we don't want that building anymore, we want to surplus it, that easement goes with the parcel. Because otherwise it's.
yeah. I agree. I mean, in terms of it's tied to the parcel rather than tied to the structure on the parcel. That's how it should be. Because right now, it's only being used by the sheriff, but it can be used by others. And I think in terms of how that property is utilized in the future, the county shouldn't be precluded from that.
Okay, any public comment?
Restate your motion.
That we accept the request of the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority to redefine the parcel like they were requesting on the proviso that the county be provided an easement to access the parcel, I don't know what you call that parcel.
The sheriff's storage.
Yeah, sheriff storage parcel for future utilization either by the sheriff or other county uses of that parcel.
Or subsequent owner.
Yeah,
Okay, sheriff or of Lassen County. And then what did you say, Richard?
Or it would be,
tied to the parcel, so it could be a subsequent owner.
the easement would be tied to the parcel.
Of course, if the county was interested in disposing of it, a subsequent owner could easily be the recreation authority.
Okay, we'll take public comment. Eileen?
I
We have a
have
second
We
on the
don't have a
motion?
second.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
who seconded the motion on 6?
Mr. Hammond?
Mr. Hammond? Thanks.
Okay, so there's no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Chair votes aye. Is that it? That's it.
So we have closed session at 1:30.
Yeah.